A grandfather takes his grandson's hand and places it on the ivy-covered wall. My father brought me here to touch this same wall in 1955, he says quietly. Now it's your turn. 3 generations, 1 wall, 1 stadium that almost died. This is Wrigley Field, the most famous baseball stadium in America. It's been here for over 110 years. While other stadiums got torn down and rebuilt, Wrigley survived. It almost died. The building was falling apart. Everyone said it was time to let it go. But someone decided to save it, and that decision cost $575 million. This is why that money was worth every single penny. Let's go back to 1914. A businessman named Charles Wiegum built a small stadium in Chicago. Cost him $250,000. That's about $7 million today. Compare that to modern stadiums that cost $1.5 billion or more. It wasn't fancy, just 14,000 wooden seats, concrete and steel. Basic stuff. Wiegman owned a baseball team called the Chicago Whales. They played in something called the Federal League. That league failed after just 2 years. Now Wiegman had a stadium, but no team. Most people would have given up, but he bought the Chicago Cubs instead, gave them a new home. By 1920, people were calling it Cubs Park. Fans loved it because they sat close to the field. You could hear the players talking, see their faces, feel like you were part of the game. In 1921, a rich businessman named William Wrigley Jr. took over. He made his fortune selling chewing gum. In 1926, he renamed the place Wrigley Field, his name, forever connected to Chicago baseball. Then came 1937. Someone had a crazy idea. Plant ivy on the outfield walls. Living plants growing on brick in the middle of a baseball stadium. It seemed ridiculous. They did it anyway. That ivy became the most famous feature of Wrigley Field. That same year, they put up a scoreboard in center field. But here's the thing. No electricity, no computers, just people inside changing the numbers by hand after every play. That scoreboard still works the same way today. While every other stadium has giant electronic screens, Wrigley still has real people manually updating scores, like it's 1937. But Wrigley's biggest act of stubbornness came with lights. By the 1940s, every other major league stadium had lights for night games. Fans wanted to watch baseball after work. It made sense. Wrigley said no, absolutely not. Baseball was meant to be played in daylight. In 1941, they actually ordered lights, had 165 tons of steel ready to install. Then Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. America went to war. Wrigley donated all that steel to help the war effort. After the war ended, they still refused to install lights. For 47 more years. It wasn't until 1988 that Wrigley finally got lights. The last major league stadium to do it. Over 50 years after everyone else. Even with lights, Wrigley felt frozen in time. Like stepping into the past. Like watching baseball the way people did 70 years ago. Then the 2000s arrived. Really hit hard. By the early 2000s, Wrigley was in terrible shape. Concrete falling apart. Steel beams rusting. Bathrooms awful. Clubhouses embarrassing. The whole building was dying. Meanwhile, other cities were building billion-dollar stadiums. Fancy roofs, luxury boxes, giant screens, modern everything. Wrigley looked ancient. Because it was ancient. People started asking the obvious question. Shouldn't we just tear it down? Build something new? In 2009, the Ricketts family bought the Cubs and Wrigley Field. 4 years later, they shocked everyone. They announced they would save Wrigley, renovate it completely, but keep what made it special. They called the plan the 1060 Project, named after Wrigley's street address. The challenge was massive. How do you fix a 100-year-old building without destroying its soul? Engineers inspected everything, found the upper deck had shifted over the years. Steel beams were weakening. The whole structure could collapse. They brought in 1,000 tons of steel, the same kind used in skyscrapers, reinforced everything carefully, poured 3,000 cubic yards of fresh concrete, replaced the foundation piece by piece. Every move had to be perfect. One mistake would destroy history. The hardest part was the ivy wall, that famous ivy that made Wrigley special. They needed to rebuild the brick wall behind it, but they couldn't touch the ivy. Workers put up temporary barriers to protect the plants, then took the wall apart brick by brick. Each brick weighed 10 pounds. They cleaned every single one, put each brick back in its exact original spot. The ivy stayed perfect. When they finished, you couldn't tell anything had changed. Underground, they dug out a new clubhouse, 30,000 square feet, half the size of a football field, built entirely below the stadium. For years, Wrigley had the worst facilities in baseball. Tiny rooms, old equipment, no space. Players hated it. The new underground clubhouse changed everything. Therapy pools, modern weight room, high-tech recovery equipment, finally matching what other teams had. For fans, the biggest change was video screens. 2 massive boards. One in left field, one in right. 42 feet tall and 95 feet wide. Huge. Some fans got angry, said it ruined Wrigley's old-fashioned charm. Others were happy. The debate got intense. An even bigger fight happened with the rooftop buildings. For decades, buildings around Wrigley had turned their rooftops into viewing areas. Fans could watch games from up there without buying tickets. Some building owners had deals with the Cubs. When those giant video boards went up, rooftop owners got furious. Said the screens blocked their views. Lawsuits happened. It got messy, but the work continued. Bathrooms improved. More seats added. The stadium grew from 14,000 seats in 1914 to 41,649 today. Total costs were $575 million. The Ricketts family paid it all. No taxpayer money. Today, that would be $750 to $800 million. And it worked. Ticket sales went up. Money poured in. Wrigley became one of baseball's most profitable stadiums. But the real win was bigger than money. Wrigley survived. The ivy still grows on the walls. The scoreboard is still operated by hand. Everything that made it special stayed intact. Other old stadiums have kept historic features. Fenway Park in Boston kept its famous Green Monster wall. But Wrigley proved something more important. Being old doesn't mean being worthless. Today's new stadiums are incredible. Computer systems everywhere, fancy technology, virtual reality seats, entertainment districts around them. Compared to all that, Wrigley seems like a museum. And that's exactly why it matters. Most stadiums get torn down after 30 or 40 years. Wrigley has stood for over 110 years. It survived World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, economic crashes, and everything else. Remember that 85-year-old man at the beginning? He's not just watching baseball. He's standing there where he proposed to his wife 60 years ago, where his father took him as a child, where his grandson will someday bring his own kids. No new stadium can create that. Real history takes time, decades, generations. You can't buy it or build it. You can only preserve it. Wrigley's power is simple. It offers something new stadiums never can. Genuine connection to the real past. Real memories embedded in every brick. More than a century after opening, Wrigley still thrives. Not because it follows trends, because it stays true to itself. It proves that sometimes the old way is the right way. And as long as baseball exists in Chicago, Wrigley Field will stand at its heart. Now it's your turn. Is spending $575 million to save this stadium the right choice? Or should they have torn it down and built new instead? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for other amazing videos.